Special guest with us at the end today, my friend, my favorite, Tina Desiree Burke. How you doing over there?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. We can't forget about Johnny
my friend.
Sue's on the ones and twos.
Wait, I'm Fiorella's friend too.
Okay, here we are. They're friends, ladies and gentlemen. But the most important thing is there are two strong, progressive women that are joining us on the show today. Well, one has actually the host of the show. Tina's joining us, and we're going to have a great time. We have a great debate. It's the fifth one. Yes, we are. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, if you're on the YouTube now, go on over to our Rockfin, ROKFIN. Join. It's free tonight. Sign up. Tell them the CONVO Couch sent you. And if you got a few extra bucks, you can endorse us for just $9.99 a month. And remember, it's a cryptocurrency-based platform, so we're raging against the machine. And someone who likes to rage against the machine, Tina Desiree Burke. Tell us today, who are you expecting?
I feel like I have to now mention that Zach DeRocha is my neighbor in Eagle Rock. I don't know if you guys know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
He was the original singer of Rage Against the Machine.
Right. Yeah, I
then
see him
he
at the
left.
gas station all the time.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
He's awesome.
He is actually really awesome. I've actually seen him out in restaurants with friends of mine, and they've gone up and talked to him. He's very leftist.
Is he a Bernie supporter?
That I don't know.
Okay.
It would not surprise me if he was, though.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get this party started. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we have our signs as normal. The red, thumbs down. The green, which will be the purplish kind of background, thumbs up. That will be somewhat of our commentating. There's also some fun signs I'm sure you'll see the ladies use.
You know this is already my favorite one.
Right there, the Bullstein.
This is mine.
Thank you, Bernie. Let me ask you a question, Tina Desiree Burke. Let's start off right now. Who today on that stage is the most full of Bullstein?
Hard to pick one.
It's hard to pick one. I think it would depend on the area you're talking about. I think, well, let me say this. After the spin room dialogue that we witnessed at KDM on Saturday, I really want to hear more on foreign policy from all these folks because not a single one of them would call Bolivia a coup, and it's clearly a coup. I don't see how it's anything but a coup. But, you know, every single one of them darted and dodged, and it wasn't just with Bolivia. It was also Medicare for all. You can go down the list of items. It was just political horse racing kind of commentary that didn't really say anything.
Yeah.
So
platitudes. It was like we need to unite, regain the trust of our country, unite in our values. The same BS. It was never anything specific.
Yeah.
And I think the American people need specifics now.
I need specifics.
I would say that Pete Buttigieg is
he's
by far one of the worst candidates up there, and it really irritates me that he has so much support in Iowa. So,
but hang on, let's talk about that for a moment. Do you think that that's real, genuine support? No. I think it was interesting to mention that on Saturday, once again, to go back to that, the only question the CNN reporter asked was in regards to the Iowa poll, but this was a CNN poll, was it not?
I believe it was. That's why she had the numbers right out the bat, and she made him look good.
Yeah,
which
100%.
was irritating me.
Yeah.
Did you notice that, Pasta?
I did notice that. And, you know, when you talk about Pete Buttigieg, I believe the support is genuine. Because I think most of the people, the electorate, at least that is, the people who are going to be electing the president, aren't really deep inside the bubble. And his platitude salads, they just sound so nice. They make you feel good. Even when we asked him our questions, and, you know, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
He didn't give me an answer. I asked that question specifically because we heard Tulsi Gabbard answer that on day one. Foreign policy, she's going to call a summit between China and Russia to denuclearize our situation. And that's one of the biggest threats she feels.
Right.
So I asked Buttigieg the same question, and we got nothing but platitudes.
No, yeah.
We need to get back in the game and, you know, get back our allies and take the yin and the yang.
Andrew Yang's response was the Yang Doctrine, which never even addressed Bolivia. This was about, he changed the subject entirely. To discuss his vision of just, you know, vague answers to permanent war economy type things. And even then, it didn't really address it.
Yeah, they were keywords. They were like just the same bland speech of like, oh, this is a reason I'm manufacturing consent, I'm manufacturing consent, I'm manufacturing consent.
And even Castro, who is more likable than a lot of the others, and Steyer, we're still unable to call what happened in Bolivia a coup. And we're saying, oh, you know, we need to make sure that we're supporting democratic elections. That the people of Bolivia, blah, blah, blah. The same narrative that we know is a narrative for coups, for regime change, for U.S.-backed ousting.
Right.
Okay.
So to get back to your question,
Yes.
which I never actually fully answered, I'm coming
Pulling
from
a
that
Pete.
perspective tonight because of what we witnessed over the weekend at KDM. My mind's sort of focused on the things that I heard there, and I really want to hear something deeper than what we heard there at KDM on Saturday. So
Yeah.
quite, they were all bad. Booker was bad too. So
God,
so
yeah.
right now, Bernie's. Well, I'm a big Bernie stan, so this is.
Yeah.
This isn't any big secret.
Out of all the people who went there, I mean, he won even by not being in the press room because he was in the caucuses handling
he took
that
right to the people.
Yeah.
Right. He took the message, which is understandable. I was not surprised by that choice at all. I mean, when you think about how unfriendly the mainstream media has been towards Sanders time and time again, makes my skin crawl, all of these things that they say, why would he show up to the media press room? Now, granted, if he had come, he would have seen
He would have been pleasantly surprised.
He would have pleasantly surprised to see a lot of progressive media in there, but I understand why he would prefer to take his case directly to the delegates in those caucus rooms.
Yep.
And he was very warmly received in both the California Young Democratic Caucus
and
also the Progressive Caucus. He gave a really great speech. He got a standing ovation, and that room was packed.
Yes. That was my favorite pro-caucus.
Pro-caucus?
Pro-caucus. The progressive caucus.
After you guys left, Julian Castro actually came in and gave a speech. That was actually pretty well received as well.
I'm sure it was. He's likable to a lot of people. A lot of people say, though, in Texas, when he was handling housing issues, he wasn't that great. But and his foreign policy sucks. But other than that, domestically, he's likable.
I agree. Let me ask you this. Do you think he's to the left of Obama? Because one of the questions that was asked of him, if I recall, was how he felt about the way Obama had mentioned that we were all going too far left in the primary, and that would be Obama. Let me just say this: Obama is flat out wrong here. This is very poor analysis.
Yeah,
we are not going too far left, and in fact, if we go to the center, we will lose this election.
Absolutely,
I think that's pretty.
Because our center is way far to the right of most of Europe, in fact.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I'm saying, on our scale. By the way, somebody was responding, ladies, on our Rockfin to what you said.
Yeah.
Somebody said here, and this is on the chat, and please go over to the Rockfin, ROKFIN. It says, Pete is a sociopath. There's murder in them eyes.
Yeah.
So they watched our stuff on the YouTube. We have all the cut-ups from the press conference.
Yeah.
Also, Tina Desiree Burke, where can they find your stuff if they want to see some of the stuff we had when you're done editing it and getting up?
District 34 now on YouTube. We just started that channel. I mainly do a podcast, which is available on, if you don't know, on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Apple iTunes. But so we're going to be uploading, because I also took a lot of footage at the DNC convention as well. So we started doing that.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, I have a question for Fiorella, and if you're over on the YouTube, get over on the Rockfin now. We'll be streaming live. Once we go live, the debate goes live, we'll be on Rockfin handling stuff over there. Fiorella, you asked Tulsi Gabbard over the weekend if what her stance is on Bolivia. She said she was gathering the information. Do you think it's essential and important tonight that she mentions Bolivia? Because I believe if you don't mention Bolivia, you can't own foreign policy.
I 100% agree. I think if she doesn't mention Bolivia now, people are going to have serious doubts, understandably so, if she really is a regime change candidate. Because Bolivia is something that it's been a week and a half. I mean, and it's clearly a coup. If people like Bernie Sanders are calling it out, if people like AOC and several other congressional leaders are calling it out, and then everybody else, every other establishment politician isn't calling it out, including Andrew Yang. You can differentiate yourself. You can be that progressive regime change candidate if you know what's going on. Now, I heard that she was talking to the Bolivian embassy and that she was trying to figure out what was going on. But I think she should have read the room better and at least said something and then gone and said, okay, I'll get back to you with more info, whatever. What do you think?
I 100% agree. When we were at her town hall, she sort of did that, right? That's what you're referring. She should have said something by now.
And I think Latin America isn't her strong point. It's not the strongest area for her, but I think that's why this is an opportunity to get better at it. And also, we've talked about this before, Pasta, in the previous debates. She failed to make that connection between immigration and regime change,
which is
Latin
absolutely
America.
clearly connected. And it's not just with Latin America. I agree with you.
Right.
But I just think in general, American politicians and foreign policy is shit. Am I allowed to say that?
Oh, you're allowed to say shit here.
Okay.
Yeah. You're allowed
checking.
to say shit. She gives thumbs up for the shit.
Wait. Yeah, thumbs up for yes on the bullshit. Here's the thing: United States, we have such a large permanent war economy. The military, you call it military industrial complex, whatever you want to call it. Almost everything we do is in service of that when it comes to foreign policy. And it's not solely the military industrial complex. It's also corporate business interests. I mean, you can go back even to the 60s when we went in and overturned a democratically elected government in Iran because they were going to nationalize the oil. Mm-hmm. So we have a long history of this, and none of this is conspiracy theory. This is all very verifiable fact of the matter kind of stuff. We have a long history in Latin America and South America as well, as you know. So yes. I don't think even the left in this country understands how dedicated our government is to preserving corporate business interests abroad.
Yeah, and seeing Cory Booker say that he stands behind the OAS, that's like CIA light, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. But I'm going to mention another person who really surprised me the other day. This man was mentioned at a Feel the Burn Democratic Club meeting, and I kind of got up and walked out. I was so pissed off. Oh. But for me, in that press room the other day, the guy who surprised me the most, and I'm kind of looking forward to see what he has to say, was Tom Steyer.
I knew you were going to say that.
It was Tom Steyer because you asked him a question, Tina. Why don't you tell him about it? And he was like, yeah.
Yeah, unequivocally he said yes.
And you were happy with that answer.
I was very
saw your
happy
face.
with that answer. I was shocked and
Tell
happy.
the audience what he asked and what he said.
So this is a very California-centric situation. So we have Prop 13 in the state, and one of the things that we're looking at doing is to create what we call a split roll. Split rolls would take the commercial properties and the residential and small business properties and split them, and it would stop preventing the corporations from paying their fair share of taxes. Right now, they got grandfathered into these low tax rates. And, for example, you have Chevron has a very large facility in Richmond, which is outside of the Oakland area in the Bay Area, and they pay like next to zero in property tax on this facility. Mm-hmm. And it's really been devastating in the state because this is the money that we use to finance our school system and a whole host of other things. So this has been a very devastating proposition. So now Tom Steyer is a very wealthy man. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, did he support Prop 13 reform? And his response was, do you mean split rolls? And I said, yes. And he said, yes. And that was and I said, unequivocally? And he goes, yes, unequivocally.
he was pretty excited about it when he said that, and then he asked another part about Costa Hawkins.
I did, yeah. I followed up.
Did he give you an answer after? Did you meet up with him? Or
no, I'm going to have to pursue him on this because I do want to know what his thoughts on this. Again, this is a very California-centric problem, but I think affordable housing affects everybody in the country, even though this particular piece of legislation is what was devastating, in my opinion at least, to affordable housing in the state. The country is facing this crisis in every state. This is not something only we see solely in California. But I have a feeling, given his response on Prop 13, that he might be friendly to reform on Costa Hawkins as well.
Maybe. And you know what? To me, he was just genuine. I didn't expect it. I see a lot of the other kids. Did you see a little bit of genuineness there?
I did.
I believe, well, once again, I don't know if he's the man to kind of lead it. Yeah. Fiorella asked an amazing question as well. But somebody who is not genuine, and your little friend of yours, Fiorella, Kamala Harris, what do you think she stands to lose or gain in tonight's debate?
I mean, I pretty much feel like she's done. She's closing down her offices. She really didn't say anything at all in that press conference. I mean, I wanted to ask her, like, hey, you're closing down your offices. Like, when is it time to call it quits? Yeah. Because I genuinely feel like it's really weird because it's like California relied on her so heavily. So that the Party. She had meetings with Obama, the people that backed Obama before, and so she was like
Barbara
the chosen
Lee.
candidate.
Yep.
Barbara Lee,
Dolores
Huerta is backing her, who she told us straight up that she was backing her.
Yeah.
But she really has nothing to show for it. I mean, after the whole interaction with Tulsi Gabbard, literally she dropped to 1 to 2%,
and that needed to happen.
Is passing her now. It's kind of karmic
to be
justice.
fair, I will be forever in Tulsi's debt for that night because somebody needed to do this. Kamala Harris has an atrocious attorney general record here in the state.
And a lot of people didn't know about it.
Right. I think only leftists in California were really tuned into that, dialed into that. I mean, it was great to watch that happen. I remember I had tears well up in my eye when she did that. I was like, thank you, Tulsi.
Yeah.
Somebody says on the Super Chat contribution, thank you, Mocracy. We love Mocracy here. And your super chat contribution is always appreciated on the couch. Isn't making statements on other countries' reverse regime change actions? Why do we have the right to influence regime change no matter what? And that's something that wasn't broken up. We don't have the right. And we understand that Bernie has said it is a coup. If Tulsi Gabbard wants to elevate herself tonight, she needs to say, this is not just a coup. This is a state-sponsored coup. And that's something that's being missed here in the argument.
I agree.
Tina?
I do want to mention something on that because I think this is important for folks to understand as well. A lot of these countries have a very wealthy right elite inside, internally in the country and in their government. And these are the folks that the United States is pairing up with because they have a shared common business interest. So oftentimes, you want to see people that want to make these statements about Bolivians think this or Venezuelans think this, but no group is monolithic. Yeah. And if you choose to only listen to one part of this group and not the other, then you're part of the problem as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
And I think we've seen also, I want to mention, a lot of astroturfing going on with both of these regime changes. I don't know who's paying for it or funding it, but you see all of these accounts that are popping up that are clearly 2 days old. They're fake. Oh, yeah. They're just spreading.
Oh, yeah. They're bots.
They're bots.
They have like one follower. They follow nobody.
Yeah. And they say the same thing like 20.
Yeah.
So,
there's a lot of money invested.
There's a lot of money. Yeah. And we have our business interests are clearly aligned with the right wing in these countries that are very wealthy. So. Yeah. It's not simply, so when you look at the situation, for example, in Bolivia, I think is a really prime example of this. You have the indigenous folks.
What does help?
Go ahead. The indigenous folk.
I mean, Evo's their guy, obviously. Yeah. He's done a lot to elevate them out of poverty.
Can I give you the stats?
Statistically
pull
proven.
them up. I mean, so I think, but obviously, in the way that would piss off the wealthy right-wing elite in this country, the same thing happens there. So if they have an opportunity to get rid of the socialist, to get rid of the guy that's fighting against corporate interests, they're going to do that. And we have, we have a history of that in this country.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of funny you mentioned that because I feel like it's very similar with the right-wing Christian fundamentalist sort of mindset, because the woman, she was saying like, death to Pachamama, which is like Mother Earth, which is their god. And she was saying, we don't want a secular nation. We are a Christian nation. And that is extremely dangerous because you always have to separate church versus state. And it's not just because I'm not a religious person. It's because you always run into issues when that happens.
Yeah, they were bringing the Bible back into the parliament there, and that Evo had it removed from because he wanted to keep it separate. Well, he's an
atheist, and she doesn't like that.
So during his tenure, he reduced the poverty rate by 42%.
There you go.
He reduced extreme poverty rate by 60%. This is Evo Morales. The income per person has increased by more than double of the Latin American average. The illiteracy rate, dropped from 13 to 2.4%.
Yeah.
The elitists don't like the indigenous getting educated at all because they'll find out they're trying to they're being screwed.
This is wealth and power trying to maintain wealth and power.
Yes.
In coalition with white supremacy.
Yes.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Unemployment 9.2 to 4.1%. Cut it in half, and still it's one of the fastest growing countries as pertaining to the GDP. Even with all that going on, Evo was the first indigenous leader of Bolivia. So that's why inside that press room, it was hard to see people like Cory Booker saying, I'm for the poor people, whatnot. I think the reporter in the corner, her name is Lauren Steiner, was trying to follow up by saying, well, he reduced the poverty rate, but she got cut off, and that was that. Mark Ricci, another super chat contribution, says, love your honesty, and you have a great show.
Evo?
Oh, yeah, in a way I do. Not because the folks didn't support him or because I don't think there were any shenanigans
going on. They wanted him to run,
on.
Actually.
Yeah, and I think he won. I actually think he won that election. I don't think there was fraud as was being claimed by some of these folks.
Evidence of it. Yeah.
But I think it did open the door for the problem that we're seeing now. Yeah. It gave them the excuse to say, look what he's doing.
I think it's important to note that he didn't have a movement of leaders backed up to take over.
You always need a pipeline. You always need a pipeline.
Absolutely.
Every successful, especially if you're on the left, especially if you're fighting, because let's face it, we're on the left. We don't have the power. We don't have the money. We are the folks fighting the power and the money. We have more people, but you have to make sure that that pipeline has leaders coming down and that are getting trained and are ready to step in. And I think people are starting to catch on to that notion now. But for a long time, the left has been very disorganized, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. Especially the left. Like, the liberal establishment is always far more organized, and the Republicans even more so.
And, which is why, for a long time, they maintained power. We ceded so much ground post FDR to the neoliberals. Like,
well, that's the problem. We didn't get Wallace, and that's why I look at Bernie as FDR, and I look at Tulsi as like a Wallace.
You're talking about Henry Wallace, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
We got pushed out, and by the way, we just got.
Are we about? Let me ask you a question. Are we about to see a redo of Wallace's convention in Milwaukee? Is this something you folks have discussed?
Yes.
Well, the rules have changed, and we were talking about it. By the way, talking about Bolivia, Kevin Zeese has just reached out. He wants to come on the show Tuesday at 2 p.m. here on the Convo Couch. Another foreign policy junkie, another foreign policy.
Kevin Zeese here.
Kevin Zeese, Fiorella did the interview while he was inside the embassy. Ladies and gentlemen, get on over to that Rockfin. The candidates are getting ready. We're getting ready. Democracy with another super chat contribution. Will Geek of TYT stop saying tick tick on Trump? I don't know, but get on over to the Rockfin, ladies and gentlemen.
We're about to start.
We need you there.
We're about to start. Any last? Who do you think is going to win this debate?
Bernie.
Well, we didn't get a chance to talk about Bernie. Well, we got to see how Bernie does. We got to see how Tulsi does. The person who has the most to lose on this stage tonight is Elizabeth Warren.
That I agree with.
Pete Buttigieg too as well, because if he gets attacked on foreign policies, the way he answers the questions in the last debate, when he wouldn't stand on taking all the troops out of Syria. If he doesn't make a stance on that today and firmly say, I will remove all the troops from such and such places, he can take some serious points against them.
We're starting. All right.
Here we are. Rockfin, ladies and gentlemen.
Rockfin. Oh,
nope, they're on commercial.
Oh, wait. Okay, so then can we talk about Warren for a second?
Yeah.
Now that you brought that up.
We have to say it. Warren.
Warren. Okay. What are your thoughts on the fact that she came out over the weekend and said that she would not fight for Medicare for all until her third year in? To me, this is like nail in the coffin.
To me, she's signaling to the insurance companies, and she's been teetering to see whether she's a progressive or not. That's why she's kind of faltering, because she's not choosing. Like, she would be better off if she just chose to be an establishment candidate or a progressive candidate than actually trying to like placate to both sides, which is what I feel she's doing. And I'm not surprised she did that. She was never, in my opinion, really for Medicare for all, and it's blatantly a public option. I mean, if you saw that video that somebody made side by side, like, it sounds just like Pete Buttigieg's public option plan. So there's no excuse.
I just heard her talk about Venezuela and all these other things. Just terrible. Just terrible. Here we go. We're going live, ladies and gentlemen. Rockfin.
Yay.
Hello and welcome to the MSNBC Washington Post Democratic Candidates Debate. At least some of us are very, very happy to be here tonight. I'm Rachel Maddow, here in Atlanta, Georgia tonight with my fellow moderators. Andrea Mitchell is NBC News Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent and the host of Andrea Mitchell Reports on MSNBC. Ashley Parker is White House reporter for The Washington Post, and Kristen Welker is NBC News White House correspondent.
We'll be covering a wide range of topics tonight, including national security, race, and climate. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 15 seconds to answer our questions, and 45 seconds if we need to follow up. And we ask the audience to respect the candidates and please don't interrupt.
There's 10 candidates here tonight. No time to waste. Let's get right to it. We're in the middle of the fourth presidential impeachment proceedings in our nation's history. Ambassador
seems genuine
Yeah.
and like he actually cares. It doesn't seem like he's pandering at all. He talks about specifics, and I think Yang also does the same. He'll talk about specifics, he'll focus on that, but his foreign policy is terrible, and that's where they lose me. Tulsi Gabbard, I think, has done really well overall. She's been very specific about the things she says, and she has talked about the issues and focused on the issues, and when Kamala tried to attack her, it just fell back on Kamala because she had nothing to give.
Do you think the fact they asked her that question on purpose or whatnot, Tulsi, do you think that it might have hurt? They're trying to hit into her support? Because I saw someone in our chat said the most of the attackers are lone wolves. It's not about white supremacy. It will infringe on our civil liberties if we try to make it about something else to go after them, I guess.
No,
I don't
do you
agree
think
with that. I don't agree with that.
You don't think the establishment was... not the statement.
Yeah.
Do you think the establishment was setting it up so that she would cause some disparity from some of her supports, the libertarians and whatnot, kind of put her in a pickle, kind of put her in a corner?
Hang on. Look, we have to let's go back to Yang for a second, because this is what I wanted to bring up in regards to Yang. Yang's answer in regard to white supremacy wasn't a bad answer.
Yeah.
No, not at all. It was pretty
because
good.
a lot of what he was talking about, and in fact, the guy he mentioned, I can't remember, is somebody, he has this organization that goes out and trains people how to talk to those that might be kind of red pilling themselves into the alt-right neo-Nazi area.
Yes.
But at the same time, I'm very bothered by the fact that he was leaning into the alt-right 4chan group for a while. Richard Spencer came out and was tweeting pro-Yang stuff. I mean, you sort of have to appreciate the irony of the fact that Richard Spencer saying the smartest guy in the room is an Asian guy, not a white guy. But having said that, there wasn't a lot of stuff coming out of the Yang camp putting that stuff down and sort of addressing it for a long time. And I haven't forgotten that.
I hear you. I mean,
I mean, I think I don't think, as in relation to your question about Tulsi, I mean, they can do that all they want, but the fact
Colleague Brian Williams is going to pick up our coverage in just a moment. I also, before we go, want to thank everybody here in the audience. I want to thank the city of Atlanta and all of us here.
Our thanks
Right.
as well, and a job well done to our friends.
Mics are live. We are live here on the couch, CONVO couch. You don't have to watch those MSNBC people, those CNN people. You are here, independent media that had an effect in this debate, ladies and gentlemen. The people in this room, we asked questions. I saw the same answers in the KDM press room convention here on the couch, as we did on the stage couch. You don't have to watch those MSNBC
Winners
and losers. Tina, Desiree Burke, biggest loser of the night. Media that had an effect. Biggest in this debate, ladies and gentlemen. The people in this room, we asked questions. We saw the same answers in the KDM press room convention
He sounded like he was
as we did on the
half
stage
time.
tonight.
Yeah, many instances.
Winners
Yeah,
and
all
losers.
of it.
Tina, Desiree Burke, biggest loser of the night.
Yeah,
Give me a
I
top
agree
of your
with you.
mind.
Mayor
Biggest
Pete,
loser.
he didn't answer a single
Why?
question. Like he
Mayor
was just like he
Pete,
took
what a mess.
like 10 minutes to say nothing.
Yeah.
His
And
foreign policy
and when
was
Tulsi
terrible.
put him
He
on the
sounded like
spot,
he
you
was
could
pandering
tell he
half
was
the
angry,
time.
and you
Oh,
could tell
yeah,
he
that was
was
a great
very
moment.
upset, and
All
he
of
was
it.
like muttering things
Yes.
the whole time, and he didn't
I
really
agree
have a
with you. I mean,
defense.
Mayor
and
Pete,
he didn't answer a single
lied.
question.
He lied
Like,
on
was
TV
just
because
like,
what
he
she
took
said about the
Yeah.
cartels
10
Is
minutes
actually
to say
really
nothing.
true.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
break that down
and when
a second, 'cause
Tulsi
that
put
is
him on the
actually
spot, you could tell he
very
was
salient
angry,
point.
and you could tell
that
he
was
was
a great
very
moment.
upset, and he was like
Then he was sort of
muttering
parsing it, saying,
things
well, we've been
Yes.
running
the whole time,
co-op
and he
security
didn't really have a
operations for
defense, and he
years, blah, 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 blah.
lied.
Well,
He lied on TV because what
so
she
we're
said about the
questioning
cartels
what
is
good
actually
idea is the
really
point,
true.
Mayor. Let's
Oh, yeah.
break
Yeah,
that
yeah.
down a second, because that is
you are
actually
coming from a place where that
very
is a good
salient
idea,
point.
and the rest
He
of us are
did
saying
say
no,
you
it's
wanted to
really
send the
not.
troops to Mexico.
I want
Then
to
he
talk
sort
about
of
this moment
parsed
in
it
the
out,
debate
saying,
right here.
yeah,
I know
running
exactly
co-op
what you're saying, and
security
let's stay on this
operations
moment
for
in the
years,
debate right here
blah, blah,
because
blah,
we have to address the whole Tulsi
So
Gabbard
we're
factor in this
questioning whether
kind of
that's a
argument
good
right here.
idea is the point,
Maybe
Mayor
we
Pete.
thought about it,
You're-
heard it through the
you're-
grapevine,
you
little
are
Tweety
coming from
Bird.
a place where
We
that
kind
is
of
a good idea,
figured this
and
kind
the
of
rest of us are
conversation
saying,
was
no,
coming.
it's really
And I
not.
really I want to talk about this moment in
You
the
know what I'm
debate
saying?
right here.
Yeah.
I know
Tulsi
exactly
didn't
what
have-
you're
she had the
saying.
second
Let's stay on
least
this
amount of
moment in the
speaking
debate
time
right
up
here
until that
because
moment in the
we
debate.
have
We'll
to
have to
address
check
the
the
whole
minutes.
Tulsi
Yeah.
Gabbard
Okay.
factor in this
Yeah.
kind of argument right here.
Here it is, and it's up on the screen.
What do we
Yeah.
got there?
Thought about it, heard it
Who
through
has
the
the
grapevine.
Warren has the
Tweety Bird?
highest.
We
So
kind
we're
of feel
established
like
she has
this
the
kind of
third
conversation was
least.
coming.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I
She's at the
really
second
think this is
least
the
at
moment
that
once again,
time, I think.
Tulsi didn't
Yes,
have.
she was.
She had
So
the
she's got a little
second
speaking
least
time, but
amount of
that moment
speaking
in
time
the debate
up
is
until
what
that
we were
moment in the
talking about
debate.
when it
We'll have
comes
to
to
check the
just
minutes.
Yeah.
Waiting in the
Okay.
bushes,
But
being
what
calm.
here it is, and it's
you
up
can't
on the
overreact, and then when it comes, you strike. And she did.
She strikes well.
She strikes well, and she made a significant difference between her
Yeah.
and Pete Buttigieg
Right.
when it comes to foreign policy. I said this to you when this
she got
happened,
the
Tina.
Kamala treatment.
The libertarians and the independents that are voting for anti-war will never vote for Pete Buttigieg after that comment.
Or the
about
Republicans,
Yeah.
right?
Or the Republicans that have a
right.
chance that might, like you said, Fiorella, most of
There's
those
a few
Republicans.
of those that are
Yeah,
like,
it's mostly the libertarians, the non-interventionists. But let me just make this one quick point, and I'll pass it over to you. The ones that would normally have a chance to vote for a non-interventionist, they'll never vote for Pete Buttigieg after that moment right there, because, like she said, you lack the courage to sit down with our adversaries and our enemies
I agree with
do
her on
what's
that.
necessary. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No, and I absolutely agree with what Tulsi said there, and I think it was very devastating for him. I just wanted to point out, because we have on the screen now the amount of time each candidate had. Pete is number 2.
Yep.
So he's gone from being in the last couple of debates at the bottom of the list. He's up to number 2 right now. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on whether or not that whole CNN poll that had him all of a sudden escalating in Iowa.
I think this is the establishment. I mean, this is
Yeah, I agree.
manufacturing consent. This is manufacturing the idea that he's the other flavor of the month, because Warren has been kind of hurting herself. They're scared right now. They see that they don't have a candidate. They were trying to put Kamala, they were trying to put Biden, then they were trying to put Warren.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to push Pete, and they don't have a candidate. And so the reason he's gone up that high, I mean, if Tulsi was polling even as high as Buttigieg, they would never even give her the same speaking time.
Right.
We saw Amy Klobuchar have a lot of speaking time compared, and last time she had more speaking time than Bernie.
She
and
did,
she's polling
yeah.
less. So
She's
it's not
polling less.
about the polls; it's about who they deem is on
Is
their
correct.
side.
Yeah, that's fair.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
fair.
Yeah, but here's the thing I'm trying to figure out, and then
Yeah.
some people were like, "Oh, dude, I told you, Pete Buttigieg, he was gonna come out. They're gonna start supporting him, whatnot."
Yeah.
Are they kind of putting that Fugazi mentality out there? I think,
Yeah.
so that you'll see a little rift between people going after Buttigieg, the back and forth with Tulsi, so that Warren can do, like, just slip by and go, okay, because I think she got a lot of speaking time today. I think they stayed in her good spots. They kept away from her bad spots. In other words, where she's most vulnerable, they kept her away from that. So I almost think that Pete Buttigieg is the distraction. I don't know how the establishment and the elites are working, but I still think that they're going to get behind Warren and she's going to continue to slip through. I think Buttigieg is nothing more than a distraction. But either way, neither one of them will ever win any libertarian independent votes. So
I don't disagree with that. And I think after tonight, he's done because he got the Kamala treatment, meaning that Tulsi did to Pete what she did to Kamala. And Tulsi is very good at that. She's very effective. When she gets going with her razor sharp specific listing, like this, you said this, you said this. She's very good at
she quotes people
and she did very well tonight. And I think she was right on the point she made. Nobody wants to see our military at the Mexican border.
Nobody.
And this was the second problem. The first one was that he wouldn't answer the question on whether we should cut the Pentagon spend.
He never answers any question.
My God, this country spends more money on its military than what? What's the data? The next
10 countries combined.
This is absolutely asinine. Meanwhile, our roads are crumbling. We can't educate our children.
Yes.
People don't get paid family leave off when they have children. People don't have access to high quality education. What are we doing in this country?
It's funny you say that. I'm going to pass this to Fiorella 1 second, but you talk about we spend more than the next 10 countries combined. The first time we ever heard anybody say that, and this is one of my favorite Orf videos, is when, you go back Bernie Sanders 15 years ago, right?
Yeah.
It goes, they see one aisle, and we spend more than any other country. Who you worried about? Panama? Who you worried about?
Yeah.
Fiorella,
love Bernie.
Did Bernie Sanders have a good night when it came to foreign policy?
He did.
Yes or no?
He had an awesome night on foreign policy. He said we should sit down and talk with Iran and Saudi Arabia, put him in the same room. He was also talking about how we need to reduce our military spending, how we need to focus on the issues. And he always brought it back. And the thing is, even though he said I'm pro-Israel, he was talking about the Palestinian people and the issues that they are facing.
Yeah,
he's not there yet, but he has moved left on that issue. He's definitely moved left. And I think that him and Tulsi had that in common where they were like, oh, we need to sit down with our I will sit down with the Taliban, I will sit down with Assad, I will sit down with our adversaries. And that's something that the establishment media and all the establishment pundits are going to go after them for. They're going to smear them, say, oh, how dare they, that's anti-democratic. Like, mark my words, they're going to go after Bernie for saying he'll talk to the Taliban.
Exactly.
They're going to go after him. But you know what, we need to stand with Bernie and Tulsi to say we need to talk to these people regardless for peace and denuclearization.
Yes.
You know, what I find most devastating about that is that they're all saying how they want to be inclusive with each other. But why does that line all of a sudden get drawn when it comes to foreign policy, right? So, in regards to Israel, like, I just want to see one of these folks, like, say this on the stage. I don't care what you call this. Warren has the highest. Israel.
So where is Gabbard? She has the
Palestine,
third least.
You've heard me say this. I don't care
was
if
at
you call it your mother's kitchen table. What needs to happen is there needs to be a democracy there that is inclusive,
versus the Israelis,
that has equality for everybody that lives there. And this idea, I think,
everywhere.
The Palestinians versus the Israelis,
the whole fucking bullshit at this point.
They called it Northern Israel yesterday.
I know, that's
everywhere. They're now going
so
to the
this
Golan
is not
Heights.
Northern. This is
occupied
Syria.
So my point is this:
Israel.
they called it Northern Israel yesterday.
I know, that's ridiculous.
So this is not Northern. This is occupied Syria. So my point is that have a problem with me saying this. At some point, we have to come to terms with the fact that is what we are left with.
Solution is dead.
Either Israel, Palestine, some people are going to have a problem with me saying this, rose up and becomes a full-fledged democracy. That is what we are left with. And so either Israel, Palestine, wherever you call these mutually grows up and becomes a full-fledged democracy, or it remains.
And then we let Israel do whatever they want because they continue to be our allies. We continue funding them, not only weapons-wise, but
so why does the
and then we let Israel do whatever they want because they continue to be our allies. We continue funding them, not only weapons-wise, but
so why does this with foreign policy? Why does it stop at the border? I'm tired of this. I'm supposed to have inclusiveness with neo-Nazis in this country, but I am supposed to accept hard right policy that I would never, ever in a million years accept in this country somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt.
This doesn't make sense.
It's true. 100% true.
We got to also talk.
Thank you for attending my TED Talk.
We also got to talk about, Tulsi Gabbard didn't make a good time when it came to the election integrity part of the segment, but also that's so Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar really had a little moment there herself. The audio is going nuts still, it says.
The audio is going nuts? In a bad way?
It's okay. We're good? Okay. Continue?
Okay, so what we said was that Amy Klobuchar had a moment. Obviously Tulsi Gabbard got to get her moment in when it came to election integrity. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
She's got one of the better bills out there, if not the best bill out there. She even
Paper
does
ballots.
I think at the end of
And
that bill.
she talks about not just foreign interference, but also domestic interference.
Yeah.
in the bill.
Absolutely. And she also talks about
Can be more devastating.
She addresses open closed source. It's a lot more to it, but she's looking at that too.
Open
meaning
source.
Intellectual property. There are two major
That's right.
corporations that control most of the sales of the machines in this country.
And the states and whatever local municipalities, et cetera, they don't have access to that code.
Nope. That's why it's closed source, because what the company does, it says it has intellectual property.
That's right.
So they can't go in there and look.
We've tried asking about the open source, supposedly, but they don't ever get back to us.
No, never. They never do. But Amy Klobuchar did have her moment, too, as well, because
she did. I agree with that.
Realistically, she has the second best bill on that stage, but she was able to talk about that in a moment. And she was also able to go get a little jab at Pete Buttigieg today when it did happen and talking about that. So I think she made a little statement there herself. Klobuchar's hanging around. I don't know how much longer she's going to hang on there.
Not much.
Hopefully longer than Kamala, because Kamala should freaking drop out already. I'm sorry. It's just
No, I agree with you there. I don't know why she's still in the race. I also want to bring up another thing that I noticed. I'm so tired of narcissism with our politicians. Yeah. And I noticed time and time again this evening that a lot of these politicians, they would interrupt each other to try to make points. It would be, I did this, this is my blah, 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 all the way down. And the one person not doing that is Bernie Sanders. It's always this not me, us thing with him. He gives credit where credit's due. No, not a single one of those folks saying, I did this, did any of that on their own.
Yeah.
Right.
Not a single goddamn fucking one of them.
Anything on their own.
So, and it just comes across to me as like nails on the chalkboard. Just flat out narcissism.
You see that a lot more with Buttigieg and Kamala and Cory Booker.
Klobuchar did it too.
Oh yeah, they all did it. But the thing is, it's something that Bernie, I feel like, as an activist, as an organizer, it's always about the collective. It's always about we are together in this, and we know this. Like we're building a movement. We are building a movement, and that's why it's so important to have that, because like we were talking about Evo Morales, like you need to have somebody there to fall back and be a leader.
Yeah. So when they talk about inclusiveness, it's like, don't talk inclusiveness to me in this country if not have solidarity with our left-wing brothers abroad. I just don't have time for this.
Yeah, I hear. And getting back to Bernie Sanders too, he's always playing the peacemaker. Even that little exchange between Mayor Pete and Tulsi Gabbard, he eventually chimed in and took his long time to kind of let the smoke settle. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me play peacemaker here by saying one of my speeches. Let me tell you something. I had a bagel with a schmear the other day, and it was delicious. And I do prefer Nathan's over some bread. I'm sorry, pasta. And
I prefer Nathan's.
And the Mets are better than the Yankees. Go Islanders! And let's go on to something else. He never said that, but he did go on with his speech there. And he kind of talked about, he kind of made the peace that way. I thought at least he chimed in at that moment because he sensed a little tension on the stage. Because I think he has no problem with a little good kind of honest debate.
Yeah,
when
but
it's a primary, but when it gets a little bit too much, Bernie, let's take it easy.
He's not doing it. He doesn't go after people the way Tulsi does, and that's why I think Tulsi's voice is important, though, because she's able to go after Kamala. She's able to. Well,
yes, and she does, but she still does it in a respectful way. I don't think she doesn't ever crosses the line into an ad hominem or sort of personal attack thing. She doesn't do that. Everything she said is spot on. Like when she took Kamala Harris down, everything she listed was true. And tonight we saw it again with Pete. Everything she listed was true. None of this is denial. But, and I think that's why you see these uncomfortable responses.
Yeah. You can tell it made them uncomfortable.
You can see it in Pete's face tonight.
Because they can't deny it. You can look it up and it's true.
Yeah, and he had to turn it into a conversation. In fact, I think Kamala did the same thing. Let's turn this into a conversation on Syria.
Yeah. Right. And,
really?
There's Assad and blah, blah, blah. And then there's this and then there's...
Okay, so, but, and then I want to say to Pete, and I wish that Tulsi would say this one night. So you want to make Assad the bad guy, but is Al-Qaeda the good guy? Like, who is the good person in this fight?
Right.
You tell me.
There are no good people.
You tell me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the PDB thing when, the question we asked him as far as what would you do day one, because Tulsi Gabbard had answered that question at the Proud Bird when she did her response.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Her response specifically was, "I'm going to sit down with China and Russia on day one of the summit. We need to get rid of these nuclear weapons."
Yeah.
He said absolutely nothing.
No.
He said we need to make sure we're with our allies and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It was almost like he was
to
defending
restore the credibility of the presidency was the number one thing. I don't want to hear those dumbass platitudes. Our values unite us, Fiorella. I know that's trigger for you.
That is true.
But
Me too.
he really, really blew it tonight when it came to that chance.
And then he went into this thing about artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So it's
that was the Pentagon button. That was kind of like a signal that I'm not going to cut the defense. I'm
That's right. That's what I'm getting at right there.
I'm using other ways of weaponry. Just the way
I'm gonna move that
NASA is
money,
defunded, and now the Air Force is controlling space. Nobody talks about that.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Because we want to weaponize everything
Right.
in this friggin' world. And, he's going to hand it over to AI or whatever. It's a platitude salad. He never speaks policy. He never knows what he's doing.
Salad.
He can't speak in specifics, which reminds me of Julian Castro, who didn't make the debate tonight. Poor Julian. He didn't even speak in specifics when we asked him the other day about what the specific thing that Donald Trump did during this impeachment with the circus that's been going on while in between we have the debates.
So what is with politicians that cannot speak in direct terms? Why is it that they do platitudes? It's political horse race, and I get that. But we are now at a time and place, this is what I believe at least, where people respond to authenticity in their politicians.
Right.
I might not agree with everything Tulsi Gabbard has to say, but I fucking respect her.
Yeah.
Right.
More so than I do half of those other folks on the stage. And the reason I am drawn to Bernie Sanders is because he truly is authentic, and I do agree with probably 90% of what he says.
Yeah.
So point being is I'm going to take the candidate that's more authentic and tells me precisely what they think every single time over somebody that gives me some bullshit platitude when I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah, where it's vague.
Where it's like, well, you just gave me a 10-minute speech and I have no goddamn idea what your opinion is.
You'd be surprised, though. I remember being at the Democratic debate, not the debate, the one in San Francisco this year.
Yeah.
And Pete Buttigieg went to speak, and I saw people that I thought were very strong in policy, were very strong in reality and authenticity and honesty, smiling and going up to take pictures of Mayor Pete. I don't know what it is, but the zombies, they out there, they love the zombie pudding, the brain pudding he gets. It just sounds nice.
Vote blue
it
no matter
sounds
who
good.
crowd.
It's this big part of, just huge virtue
the hope
signaling.
and change from Obama. He's like,
I'm going to say it's the vote blue no matter who crowd.
They are that crowd,
it is that crowd.
I mean, honestly, if Hitler came back to life and was a Democrat, they'd vote for him. So
if he hated Donald Trump, they would really
Can we
vote
talk
for him.
about Elizabeth Warren?
Point.
Can we talk about how,
do we have to?
Well, I just want to say, to me, she didn't stand out at all. To me, she was forgettable.
No.
She had nothing.
Look, she's dead to me after 3 days ago. Honestly, when she came out while we were at KDM and said that she wouldn't fight for Medicare for all until her third year in office, I was like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
That's it.
And what I hated was that the moderators were acting like her Medicare for all was most progressive. They're like, do you guys agree with Senator Warren's Medicare? It's like, dude, she doesn't support Medicare for all.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders is the only one that has a legitimate Medicare for all bill.
He's the only one that has it out. Yeah,
this
100%.
is everybody has their issues that they vote on, right? Yeah. Their top 10 issues, their top 5, whatever. Medicare for all for me is the number one issue. Yeah. And I'd say the number 2 one is getting money out of politics. And this is why Bernie's my guy. I mean, the fact that he won't take corporate money. Well, also notice that Warren said, speaking of, the ambassador thing, I'm going to go back to that. I won't make you an ambassador, but I'm sure as hell going to take your money.
Right.
I mean, she didn't say she wouldn't take their money. She says, well, I guess what?
Definitely implied it.
She implied it. She's like, I'm going to get your money, but I'm not going to make you an ambassador. Well, why don't you say that to your friend Hillary Clinton, who was doing that left and right when she ran the State Department? Pay for play,
it's
baby.
Crazy. It is pay for. Well, but Pasta, that's exactly it. It is a form of quid pro quo. Oftentimes I've had people say to me, well, show me the trail of quid pro quo. You don't need a trail, folks. Listen to me. If somebody has given you a wad of money, they don't have to ask you for policy in return. They know by virtue of the fact they've given you a wad of money that you have it in your brain that you got that wad of money and you're going to want it again if you're running for office.
Yeah.
So it will affect the way you vote. Don't kid yourself.
Yes.
That is all you need to know about quid pro quo. This is why we have to get money out.
It's so funny because you talk about quid pro quo. That's what the Democrats are trying to hang Donald Trump on impeachment, yet they're
Right.
trying to hide their
Biden's
quid pro
son,
quo
yeah.
from the
Yeah.
regime change in the Ukraine. And how about Biden doing that backdoor kind of like distancing himself and giving himself permission for what he did in the Ukraine. He's also another sociopath by going after Milosevic and all that bullshit. Like, oh, please. It's just bad. It's awful.
This is what makes the Democrats not fit to fight. And it's a problem. And, Joe Biden's son was getting paid $50K a month from this company? No CEO in the United States or CEO, no board member in the United States gets paid that kind of money.
Right.
So think about that for a second.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that. That's the problem. If they were talking and holding themselves accountable, it would be different, but they're not.
agree.
And they're just focused on Trump. And what I loved about Bernie Sanders yet again is that he said, we need to focus beyond Trump. And I think only a couple of other people made those statements where they were like, we need to stop focusing on Trump and focus on the American people and the issues. And like that's what people love about Bernie. Who do you guys think won the debate?
Bernie.
I think Bernie did a great job today. I think
agree.
Tulsi did great for herself.
Yeah.
I think the big losers are Buttigieg tonight because he really fell for the trap.
Yeah.
He got aggravated and agitated. Remember,
Yeah.
this whole thing is, we're watching the whole thing, so we have this macro sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
The majority of the people are going to get the little clips, the little small memes.
Right.
Those things are going to go
Sound bites.
viral.
Yeah.
And Tulsi saying, see, you just admitted that you lack the courage to lead and sit there. That's going to be played over and over again. Him getting mad. Let me tell you, there's also going to be a meme of Buttigieg smiling at Bernie when he was like, Johnny Sue and I laughed about it. Thank you for the super chat contribution, Urban Korea. But that's gonna be a moment too as well. So the big winners are Bernie. He did great today. He got the chuckles. I wrote the damn bill. He did good on his foreign policy part as well.
Did.
Even as we can be judgmental of him as foreign policy, today he said some things that I believe he could be pushed and moved on, especially if he surrounds himself with the right people. I don't like the people he's surrounding himself with now, but he's still that little old school Bernie who put us there, and we can never forget about that.
I love Bernie.
The one aisle. Who you worried about? Iraq? Who you worried about? Panama?
Yeah.
That's the old school Bernie. We saw a little sense of that tonight. So
Yeah.
he won in a way. I thought Tom Steyer did a little bit better than the last one. I think that we also have a little bias because we were in that room with him. We saw that sense of authenticity that, but he lacks he had chances to go after Joe Biden. Joe Biden went after him for coal. Well, go back at him. He says, well, that's kind of funny that a guy whose son took money in a company in the Ukraine for fracking. You had him.
Taught me kettle.
You just had chances to be all over Google and Instagram, and you blew it, Tom Steyer. Sorry,
I also think it's interesting because here's the thing: he could have come from coal, he could have come from fossil fuel industry, and seen firsthand how shitty it is. Right. And where do you think whistleblowers come from? They come from the inside the system.
Right. Absolutely.
And they see the corruption, they see the problems, and they decide to speak out against it. So I don't think it's entirely devastating for Biden to say that at this point, because Steyer walked away from that, saw that it was devastating and bad and needed to be changed, and did something about it. I think the more devastating thing is the fact that he's a billionaire, and I'm a person that believes every billionaire is a policy failure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really liked a lot of what Steyer said tonight.
Yeah. I feel like Steyer
needs
to tax himself and show that he's for the working people, because if you're a billionaire but you're for the working people, then you need to go do that. Yes, but he's also but
Andrew Yang applauded him for that. I thought that was a real Andrew Yang started off strong. Yeah. Until he got that Russia question.
Foreign policy,
that was a really good opportunity for him, too. I feel like he sort of blew it with that response.
Fiorella, what would you say to your first phone call to Vladimir Putin, if you got him on the horn? What would you say to tell the audience?
I would say, hey, let's have some vodka.
Exactly.
And denuclearize everything and be friends, because what the hell? What are we going to do? Blow each other up? And I think that's the fucking point, right? That's the point. And let me just go over, I think Bernie Sanders
did diplomacy become such a bad thing in this country? I don't understand this.
As neoliberal policies since Reagan, I feel like this is what we've been doing.
So true.
I mean, they vilified peace.
Trying to vilify anybody having a conversation with
the whole Assad situation. Yeah. Why is Syria listening to our conversation?
Yeah, my bad.
So for me, the rankings go Bernie, Tulsi, Yang, Steyer are kind of they're both bad on foreign policy. I thought Yang stood out more than Steyer, but I thought Steyer. I would probably vote for Steyer. I would probably vote for Steyer over Yang. But
I think so too. I'm kind of getting there.
Yeah.
I don't, because Yang really did screw up the chance.
Yeah.
You know, listen, we're gonna get Tom Steyer in this studio right here, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think about us getting Tom
No.
Steyer to come speak to us? No, we should speak to him, and we should see if we should move him a little bit more on foreign policy because he.
And
can
I
want to
know his stance, his sure stance on Medicare for all.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
the
I need to know this.
Yeah.
I hadn't paid much attention till tonight, but now I need to know.
It's so funny though. You said your 3 top issues: your Medicare for all,
Yeah.
your
environmental issues,
environmental issue, and 3,
getting money out of politics.
and yours.
I would say Medicare for all, education, and getting money out of politics.
So mine, if some of the audience, the people were asking, is civil liberties, number 1, election integrity, and those are really close to each other. Those are close one,
Yeah,
two.
I would say
and
they're
3, ending all these wars. I mean, so we. Do
I think
have a
those are all
different-
important too.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the whole thing is then after that, then you'll probably any of these things, the Medicare, the education,
so.
all that
You
comes
can
into play.
relate
But let me throw something out there.
Go ahead.
Don't you sort of in a way believe that getting money out of politics oversees all of those issues
Right.
because that
No.
affects everything in a
No,
way?
because
No?
even if they get the money out of politics, they could still have backdoor monies of corporations controlling the narratives and suppressing our civil liberties and still convince a mass part of our.
Are you
our-
saying through
of-
media then, or
through media,
Yeah, okay.
you know,
Okay. That's
social
fair.
media,
Google.
everything.
That's fair.
They're very, very. I mean, to me, the powers that control the media, the powers that control the internet, are like CIA related. They suppress everything that we want to hear. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that's why civil liberties are so important along with election integrity.
Oh, I don't
because if we
disagree.
want Medicare for all, we have to get the right elected officials in. And if we don't have election integrity, we'll never have that.
Yeah.
If they control the narrative and suppress our civil liberties, nothing, education, we
I don't
won't be able to get
disagree.
it. So that to me is just
So-
putting the cart before the horse, and that's why those things are so important to me. And that's the reason why I am a Tulsi Gabbard person, because of the election integrity bill, because she's suing Google, and because of her anti-war policy stance.
But the
so that is why she's number 1 for me. Not to say that
Wait,
Bernie's
is
bad on
Tul-
those things. but,
Tulsi's so Tulsi's your candidate over Bernie?
let's cut to commercial break over here.
No, she is, and that's
Of
fine.
course
But
she is.
for
No,
me,
that's fine.
for me, the domestic issue.
I did know
for
that.
me, like you're not going to get Americans to pay attention to
Yeah.
other things if they can't feed themselves, if they can't pay their medical bills, if they can't look outside and look up. I think that we should make that connection to foreign policy, how domestic our economy is so related to foreign policy.
Yeah.
But I think like if we don't address like the immediate concerns of people,
Yeah.
they're not going to pay attention to war. And there's not an anti-war
don't disagree
movement in
with
this
that.
country. I think we need it, but I think you also need to be like, yo, we're all suffering under this economy. This is terrible. We can't pay our rent. We can't buy our meds. We can't survive. And I think when people are in survival mode, it becomes about surviving.
Yeah.
And so we need to get out of that survival mode in order to really get there on foreign policy.
Or connect the dots, the fact that we are spending all this money on war. So that's where the power of the presidency is, right? It's the commander-in-chief. He has a lot more power when it comes to our foreign policy
Which
than
is
he does
true.
domestic
Which is
policy,
true.
right? Like 75% of his power is right there. He directs the FBI. He directs
Right.
the CIA. She directs the FBI. He or she, whatever the case may be. So if we can show, if that person gets into power and makes that big slice in that cut, brings a lot of money home, maybe he or she will connect the cord, and people's heads will be like, wow, we got a lot of money to do a lot of things because we weren't
But it's
spending
got to
money
be
bombing
somebody
other
willing
places.
to do that domestically too, having the ideas. This is why I
We
like
want the whole package.
I like having a Tulsi in the sort of Bernie administration. Joe,
I would love
like
to
that.
see Tulsi in a
because
Bernie
I feel like
administration.
it's
Yeah.
they give what where the other lacks, and I think Bernie Sanders has that movement because you talk about what the president can do, but also when you have a movement like Bernie Sanders has built, it's going to require everybody else actually demanding Medicare for all. He said in his first week he would push for Medicare for all. Well, we're not just going to sit back and do nothing. We have to
this 3-year thing on war, and I'm done. I'm done, honestly.
Mandy from the Super Chat says, if nukes go off, we can't eat each other.
Oh, that's
Oh,
true.
we can't eat.
True that.
Right. And
Eat
so
it.
that's why I
Not
respect
each other. I'm so sorry.
If the
let me read that again
radiation
from
doesn't
Mandy.
kill
if
us.
nukes go off, we can't eat either.
Hey, fams.
Yes.
Real quick, let me. I got Google Trends up.
Please.
Okay.
So right now we got Tulsi Gabbard, Kamala Harris. Tulsi Gabbard's in blue, Kamala Harris is in red, Bernie Sanders in gold, Joe Biden in green, Pete in purple, and you can see for the last 4 hours, Tulsi Gabbard
Wow.
has some jumps.
Because that was the only exciting part of the
I
those
agree.
debates are so bad. I mean, really, PBS is running the
interesting.
next one, so maybe that would be a little bit better, I think. Because, I mean, it's like white freaking noise. We start talking because it's so boring what they're saying. It is a Pete Buttigieg fest where you could say 2,500 words, but you mean nothing. It's just air. So, I mean, when these moments happen, and they're very small and few in these debates, and they happen to be with Tulsi Gabbard because they happen to be about foreign policy, and they happen to be about her smacking somebody down, that's why they get a lot of noise on your trends and Google over here.
That's really interesting,
and
actually.
it's good for her.
It is good for her.
She's got to make a statement about Bolivia.
Yeah, and I don't think she had the chance to make a statement about
she didn't.
Bolivia.
No, she could have said it in her closing statement. I'm pissed that she didn't say anything.
I agree.
But you know what? Shame on the journalists that were running this debate that they didn't think this was an important enough question to ask. Because I think this is a really important question to be asking.
Well, they should have went down the line. Yes or no? Raise your hands if you think it's a coup. Raise your hands if you think it's a state-sponsored coup.
And they all would have said no, except Bernie Sanders or maybe Tulsi, who I feel like. I mean, I still think she needs to give a statement. It's delayed. It's been
own
time.
Foreign policy if you don't own Bolivia. This is Evo Morales and what he's done for this people. The most indigenous. Yes. I mean, the only indigenous person to be the president over here, and this has to be something really, because let me tell you something. In her closing statement, John, she did mention Martin Luther King Jr. That's why they hit her with the white supremacy question when, you know what I'm saying, they were kind of putting her in the corner, trying to isolate her against.
Well, because they want to say she's a Republican. They want to say
they want to frame her that way, okay? So she had to go and kind of make up for that, I think, in her closing statement and make a racial comment, you know, showing that she's with people, because she is that person. She is a woman of color, and they're trying to separate it that way.
She just doesn't use the identity politics enough for the Democratic Party.
It's used against her all the time. So she didn't really have the chance to go into Bolivia because she had to make up for that. But to that point, indigenous leader Evo Morales, the evidence is there.
100% agree.
She's got to own this too, because she will lose ground if she doesn't make it.
She will lose some of her
And
own
I think she should make it to the convo couch, since we are the only ones to ask her and the first ones to ask her. Fiorella would like to have that answer, and if you want to give it to us,
waiting, Tulsi.
Call us.
Call me, Tulsi, please.
So we got about 7 more minutes before we get on out of here, almost the top of the hour. Ladies and gentlemen. Well, there are no more questions right now. There's a lot of chatter on both things. The people are still hanging in with us. Rockfin. Ladies and gentlemen, go to the Rockfin. If it didn't work out for you tonight, we're going to still be on, talking to the platform, making sure we make improvements. I think it was a big step today. I had a clear screen the whole time.
I think it was a big improvement from last time.
It was. The chat's going. If you the app, we haven't got any feedback on that yet, but please go over there, ladies and gentlemen. This is a cryptocurrency platform that really rewards the creators here. YouTube isn't just suppressing political stuff. They're suppressing everything across the board. They're very, very greedy, and they're getting away with very, very dark practices. That's why we talk about the civil liberties. We've witnessed it firsthand. So please go on over to the Rockfin, ROKFIN. Tina Burke, closing statements of the night, all in all. What do you think? And then let the ladies and gentlemen out there know where they can find you.
Okay, so I would say the winner of the night is still going to be Bernie. I agree that Tulsi had some fantastic moments where she really made her case. The way she took down Pete was fantastic. It was reminiscent of what she did with Kamala, and I appreciated that. And I always appreciate when she does that. It's authentic. It's honest. So I would say Bernie 1, Tulsi 2. I like a lot of what Tom Steyer said. This is unexpected. I did not think I was going to give any credence to anything Tom Steyer did, because I am basically a billionaires are policy failures kind of a person. I just believe that. But he might believe that too, given some of the answers that I got from him Saturday in the spin room at KDM. I would say the biggest losers of the evening is Mayor Pete. I would say Klobuchar did not have a good night. I think Warren's performance was very mediocre, given especially the last 2 performances where she was much better. Even though she's not my person, I can say that the last debate she did pretty good on. And then the rest of them they're nothing memorable. So.
Absolutely.
Fiorella, winners and losers of the night.
I would say Bernie had the best night overall, because his foreign policy totally improved, and he was able to explain that and always bring it back to the issues. I would say Tulsi Gabbard is the most notable and going to be the most talked about, absolutely. And she finished off Kamala and then punched Buttigieg in a way that exposed him and exposed his anger and exposed his just lack of courage, and he lied. And she exposed him. And then I think after that, I would say, realistically, I think Yang had a better night than Steyer. But I like Steyer.
Hang on.
I trust Steyer better.
I forgot about the high thing.
Yeah.
What he said.
Oh, Cory Booker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of a funny moment,
Yeah.
too.
So I would say, and then I would say probably, God, I think they're all terrible.
It was, yeah. It was a lot of-
Warren was mediocre. Klobuchar, forgettable. And Buttigieg, to me, by far the worst. The worst. Cory Booker had that great moment, but he's very
I almost
fake
forgot
and
about it till you
platitude. So
brought up Andrew Yang. For some reason, I thought of that, but that
Well,
that was a funny moment.
I think Steyer had a better moment than Yang tonight, just only because Yang really failed with that Russian question. And
Yeah,
Yang
he
has
did.
constantly
I agree.
failed. We actually have a video we'll be dropping soon. And Gloria Jones was on the Rockfin today. Hello, Gloria. We'll be dropping that video soon.
Yes.
We have some young Tulsi Gabbard supporters and a Yang supporter at her event and talking about where they think she needs to get better and whatnot. And also on the foreign policy, the Yang supporter, and you'll see when we drop the video, said that, Tulsi's better than Yang on foreign policy. And he proved that tonight. So to me, I give a little edge to Steyer, making a little splash in there. Once again, I wish he would get a little bit more sharkish, get blood in the water.
And they didn't give them enough time, let's be honest.
Yeah, but when he had the chance, when Biden went after him for coal, he had every single opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if he had a decent foreign policy, he would have known to use
Right.
what Burisma was. You would have been plastered all over the internet. Uncle Tom just beats up Uncle Joe or something stupid like that, because that's what it would have been. So he missed the opportunity. However, he did make a little splash on what he is when he did make the same statement he made in the press room, that national emergency day one. And when he was even talking about the homeless, like he was talking to the 11-year-old, he was talking to the audience that way. And you said, Tina, is there that much difference? Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, that was my point. I mean, honestly, most Americans spend so little time invested in policy issues, public policy, politics.
Like at a seventh grade level.
This is why sound bites become so important in elections, which is really a sad statement, in my opinion.
Two reasons, though, why they don't spend enough time. Number one, because they're consumed with work. Number two, they go to places like Michael's. Michael's, which is terrible. I went to Michael's today. It's like arts and crafts for adults. It's for people who have too much money and too much time on your freaking hand.
Oh, God.
Michael's is the reason why our country doesn't know shit about
My college roommate
foreign
used to
policy.
love Michael's.
Okay, pause.
Okay, that's why. Okay, so those are those two.
That might be a bit of a stretch, but okay.
Worst person of the day. Worst move, Pete Buttigieg. There's only so much longer.
Yeah. I can't take
much
Pete.
any longer.
Yeah,
Cory Booker kind of stunk on China.
This is Pete.
Yeah, I mean, but Pete Buttigieg had to lose the worst today after going. He got frustrated.
Yeah.
And then he smiled at Bernie, so he got himself boom, 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 double thing.
You don't know where that smile was coming from.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
But he did lose his
know
it's
what
cool.
you're saying.
And like I said, any chance that he had to get any libertarian and independent votes, the people that are wandering out there just being ripe to be picked from, he lost them by saying that you went and talked to Bashar al-Assad. Libertarians don't want to hear that. They want us sitting down talking to our enemies
let's
and
be
adversaries.
honest.
So do a lot of Republicans that might not want to vote for Donald Trump. He lost any chance for them. Biggest losers. Biggest winners, Bernie Sanders definitely by far had his moments. He was great on foreign policy for himself tonight. There were some statements in that one part of the foreign policy I think that he will kind of get a little bit jabbed at.
Which?
When he said, because they're going to cut it up. I am pro-Israel. They're going to cut that up. I am pro-Israel. They're going to cut that up. I am pro-Israel. They're going to cut that up. So they will use that on him, like, you know what I'm saying?
And I will talk to the Taliban.
But here's an issue.
He should have said I'm pro-Israel and pro-Palestine.
Hang on, the Taliban comments could be cut up far more devastating than the pro-Israel.
I think the
one.
establishment
But that's better for the libertarian vote for him. He's not gonna lose those Democrat votes anyways, and those Democratic people.
Why the libertarian vote?
Because it's the vote that's up for grabs.
Is it?
It's up for grabs.
Right, hang on. Let me little prod you a little bit on this. I don't disagree that the independents are up for grabs. So 46% of the country is registered independent.
Yeah.
Yes.
But most of those folks aren't libertarian.
No, but they're libertarian minded as far as foreign
I don't think
policy.
they are.
No, a lot of independents are libertarian minded when it comes to foreign policy, civil liberties.
I'd say they were leftists.
Well, you can say that they're leftists, but they don't want war for
All right,
whatever
so are you
reason.
using libertarian in the sense of the American definition or more of the academic definition?
No, I'm
like
using it in the sense
Chomsky
of
would use it in a certain
strategic,
way.
The strategic way.
Okay.
I want to take away votes directly from Donald Trump. Those are the votes that can be taken away from him. You know what I'm saying? I talk about Tulsi Gabbard going after those votes because it's a 2-for-1. You know, I would hope that Bernie Sanders can get some of those votes, but I think he's got the staple of a Democratic Socialist on him, and that kind of sometimes...
I don't think is a bad thing.
It's not bad for us, but for some people it is. When we talk about strategics, taking away those votes from Donald Trump, that's the area of foreign policy where he's gone on with the sanctions and we can actually poach. And once again, that's also beneficial for Bernie if Bernie does take Tulsi with him eventually.
All right, so that's fair.
Boom.
I won't disagree with that, but I don't necessarily look. I think I am of the strong belief that Bernie Sanders would have won against Trump in the last election.
Me too.
And I think the reason why is because regardless of labels of democratic socialism, which I don't think that's a devastating label. I'm Swedish though, so
yeah. You're very Swedish here.
I know, right? But my point being is that I think his arguments on class-related problems transcend both parties, and I think there is a certain amount of folks that didn't vote last election that went out and voted for Trump that would have voted for Bernie Sanders. And I know that the establishments, they get angry and they try to use that as a talking point. Right. Well, what about all those people? But here's the thing, folks. We need those votes. The Democratic Party is only 27% registered voters in the country. It's not a
Most
majority.
people are independents. And I agree with Tina. I mean, I think after Bernie Sanders went on Joe Rogan, after Bernie Sanders went on the Fox Town Hall, you saw that a bunch of Republicans were like, oh, shit, like, he's not that bad. He's not this crazy socialist
he's
I
not
thought.
this crazy-eyed Stalin guy.
No, not
and if
at
you
all.
and he can focus on foreign or on domestic policy, economic policy, and get them. He doesn't have to talk about everything else.
Right.
Whereas Tulsi can focus on the foreign policy, ending wars. I mean, I think they both can poach from that area.
Yeah.
I do see that Tulsi has a lot of Republicans at her town halls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That may not
she does.
necessarily like the Democrats, but they're like, and I've talked to Republicans actually while canvassing for Bernie, and they're like, oh, like, we like Tulsi. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I understand why you like her, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I think there is some truth to what you're saying, but I think independents are the key word. Libertarians are a segment of the independents. I don't think every, 60%
No, I
is
hear you.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page.
You know
I
what
just
it is
wanted
too,
some
though. I think
clarification.
it's what I see is the actual, when you talk about reaching out to the other side, it's that progressives and libertarians that kind of do intersect in those three areas, and that's where I see the bomb, because I sure as hell don't see it from us here. The establishment.
No.
I mean, I'm so sorry. It's like I'll even go with them and say, hey, listen, can we end these wars, protect our civil liberties, decriminalize marijuana, making them saying, can we do these three things together and save the fucking earth? Because if we're talking about going green, the first thing to do is legalizing the green, because we can use it for toilet paper and save all the wood.
Pasta, can we have a moment to realize that Pete doesn't think he's part of the establishment?
Yeah.
Oh,
our movement and progressives.
Oh, my Lord.
How dare he use the words our movement?
Okay.
Wait, he said that tonight.
Fams.
Okay.
Let me just say, first of all, on this whole conversation that you guys are talking about,
yes.
Someone said independence and unengaged are two different things, and I totally agree with that. Okay.
Nice.
Now, breaking news. Guess what notification I got from CNN?
What?
Pete
Analysis.
something.
Harris got the better of Gabbard. Biden committed an unforced error.
Wow.
And no one except Klobuchar really took on Buttigieg.
Wow.
That is the most ridiculous
That is the most ridiculous headline I've ever read.
Dude,
ever.
I want to.
Analysis.
We're gonna tweet.
Analysis.
Statement.
You guys realize they're fucking lying.
They're
lying.
Tulsi Gabbard is straight
Hang
lying.
on, Johnny. I need a screenshot of that so I can tweet it out and say,
Johnny,
can
you send this?
I'll send it to you.
This is the tweet.
I'll send it to you right now.
Did you watch the same debate?
Yeah, exactly.
And no one except
Wow.
Klobuchar really took on Buttigieg.
Klobuchar
did go after Buttigieg on the election integrity stuff a little bit.
But that's
in a nice way.
Not
and I
compared to what
applaud you.
Tulsi did.
I know, but I applaud
him.
you, Pete, for trying to do this here.
Are you
know, I'm a
serious?
Minnesota Golden Golfer.
Tulsi destroyed Pete.
This is insane right now.
CNN is high.
Okay, they're not even mentioning
you show
Bernie.
that you laugh.
Fuck
Do it
you
one more
guys.
time,
I'm
airdrop.
so
Oh,
angry.
damn.
Wow.
They're such freaking assholes,
bad.
dude.
All right, so now we're all on here tweeting.
Somebody just said CNN is deep state. Yes, they are. They're part of the programming. Once again, civil liberties. They control the narrative. You see what I'm saying? They control the narrative. And until we protect and get our civil liberties back.
When people don't have the analysis and when they don't watch a show like this, they're like, oh, CNN said that? Okay, well, maybe they were right. Let me, even if I thought something else, let me see.
They count on that.
What about the person working 2 jobs, coming home that ain't got time, got to sleep and get back to work the next day?
Yeah.
What about that person? Now they just freaking just controlled the narrative. And that's what it is. It's part of control.
This is disgusting.
It all leads back
Manufacturing
to control.
Consent.
Yes.
They didn't mention Bernie. They didn't mention Tulsi. Those were the 2 standouts.
Well, they said that Tulsi got her ass beat,
Yeah,
which was
but
such
they
a
didn't
lie.
mention the fact that she went after Buttigieg, and that was key. Why do you think she's the #1 Googled candidate? And they didn't mention Bernie at all, who had by far the best night. Are you freaking kidding me?
I wrote the bill.
Oh my God, you
All
guys!
right.
You all are seeing
You
the
guys-
tweet happen right now.
Yeah, let's.
And just like you, Joe, unlike you, Joe, I was against I led the effort for the disastrous war against Iraq. He had a good night for foreign policy tonight. So let's wrap this up, ladies and gentlemen. 9:05. Here we are.
Okay.
End of the hour. I want to thank everybody who joined us today. If you signed up for our Rockfin, thank you so much. If you endorsed us, thank you so much. I saw a Mountain Pal girl said she had some problems. I really am apologetic about that. We will contact the servers tomorrow. We are going to improve on the system. And this system is important because it takes the narrative away from the mainstream
corporate
media,
it's
from the
true.
elites who are just trying to control you. And
As you
it's
see.
plain and simple. Tina Desiree Burke.
Yes, sir.
One more time. Where could we find you?
Okay, so I have a podcast called District 34. I think a lot of my followers know that. But if you're just hearing of me for the first time, come follow me on my podcast. I mainly focus on California state politics, but I do national conversations as well.
Fiorella, anything else to close us out with?
Just watch the Convo Couch and check out our podcasts for actual news because we've released some videos on the convention, but we're going to release more on Twitter. So you guys get the difference in questions that we independent media ask versus like the CNN girl who was pretty much propping Buttigieg by saying, "Oh, you went up in the polls in Iowa." Like, I'm just sick of these people having all the power.
Too.
Oh, that's so cute, Tina. You're Bitmoji.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It looks just like you. I have mine too. Aw.
Johnny, can you pull up Jessica
is that on my
Perlman real
Twitch?
quick?
That might be on my Twitch.
Yes. So tomorrow we have Jessica Perlman in the studio. She's running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz in Florida.
District 23.
District 23.
Justice Democrat endorsed.
Is Tim Canova also running?
Tim Canova hasn't made his decision if he runs. He might
Okay.
run as an independent. He's still kind of lurking in the bushes. But like Tim Canova said, and we're going to address this tomorrow, we're going to ask some foreign policy questions to Mrs. Perlman to see where she's at on that because she is running for Debbie Wasserman Schultz's position. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is a pro
Israel. She's
pro
AIPAC.
Guaido and a big time sanction anti-Russia congresswoman. But like Tim Canova said, if we haven't fixed the problem when it comes to election integrity, how are we gonna even get what we want?
Yeah.
I mean,
what happened in Florida
was disgusting.
bullshit.
Twice he was
we
cheated.
have the videos there. It was bad.
Twice.
There's
I mean, they said that the improbability of what happened where he was 5% in every single category across the board. It's like they rigged it. Inside the machines, they got some of the worst machines in Florida. Not open source, closed source. They cherry picked those son of a bitches. In fact, I think they said in one of their machines, and when they did a test at one of these hacker conventions, that it had a friggin' modem in one of their machines. But listen, I don't want to speculate, but that's tomorrow. Jessica Perlman will be on the show via Skype from Florida, District 23, going against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. For Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella.
Johnny Sue on the ones and twos, and Tina Desiree Burke in the house.
Convo out.
Thank you very much. Join us tomorrow at 2.